In the God of War series, Kratos killed multiple gods from both Greek and Norse mythology, but there were also many who survived the bald guy, some who appeared and disappeared, and others who weren't even mentioned in the series. And that's what we're going to talk about here today, remembering that I'll only be covering the games. In Greek mythology, some figures are similar to angels and serve Zeus. They are the four titans, children of Pallas and Styx, Bia, strength, Zelos, rivalry, Kratos, power, and Nike, victory. You likely remember the last one because Nike used this goddess as inspiration. Remember, the Kratos is the titan, not Kratos, the game's protagonist and Zeus's son. That's something I've already explained in the video about the mistakes of God, which will be in the card and in the description for you. These four here were never mentioned in the series, only the one that appeared as statues in some parts of the game, like in God of War 1 before the Temple of the Oracle. And if I'm not mistaken, also in God of War 2 while we're in the Temple of the Fates. Kratos enters a courtyard with an elevator and sees a sculpture of Nike above on the wall. Then the elevator descends to the chains of the steeds of time. To me, it would make a lot of sense if these four showed up, and it would also be really cool, because they always helped Zeus, especially Nike, who was on his side. After the Titans were imprisoned in Tartarus, they helped the god of gods against Typhon in some versions of the story. They imprisoned Prometheus, who also appears in the game. I really wanted to know who ended up taking on the job of imprisoning him. It would be really interesting to see them show up at the end of God 2 or even in God 3 as the last card the god of Olympus plays against Baldy. But they weren't mentioned in the story. Nyx is a famous Greek goddess. She is the primordial goddess of the night, born from Chaos itself. A shadowy figure, Nyx was there at the beginning of everything, or at least close to it. And she was the mother of other primordial gods like Hypnos, who was sleep, Charon, Thanatos, who was death as well, and some others. Her appearances in mythology are very few, but in those few times she still shows incredible power and great beauty. Even Zeus himself avoided provoking the wrath of Nyx. In the Iliad, Hypnos, the god of sleep, reminds Hera of a past favor when she asks him to put Zeus to sleep. He had already done this once at Hera's own request. She was allowed to trouble Hercules as he returned by the Sea of Troy from Laomedon. Zeus was furious and would have thrown Hypnos into the sea if he hadn't run to Nyx, his mother, out of sheer fear. Mero goes on to say that Zeus, seeing that Hypnos was in Nyx's domain, ended up holding back his fury and returned. Nyx was an ancient deity, generally seen as the very substance of the night itself, a veil of dark mists drawn across the sky to dim the light of ether, the bright blue of the stars. Her opposite was Hemera, the day who scattered the mists of the night at dawn. In ancient art, Nyx was depicted as a winged goddess or as a charioteer, sometimes crowned with a halo. Nyx never appeared in the god games, but as a primordial and original goddess. She was likely one of the figures who fought in the Great War of the Primordials, shown in God of War Ascension. Nyx never appeared directly in the series, so it's unclear what happened to her after the war or if she survived. Though the game features a huge statue of her, after passing Apollo's statue, you enter Archimedes' challenge, where a statue of Nyx lights up everything. She's also mentioned in that awful multiplayer mode during the Troy Walls part where it says Helios is being banished from the night sky. This may imply that NYX is less powerful than in mythology, or that the Olympians surpass the primordial deities in strength. And it even seems that an animation director from the game ended up confirming this on the side
of Egypt, where the great god Helios banished Nyx from the darkness. An epic battle unfolds within the city. Whoa.
Apollo is one of the most powerful gods in Greek mythology, largely because of the many things he represents, such as light, the sun, the arts, and many other things. Before anyone says he's not the sun god, but Helios, my friend. One of his names was literally Apollo the Bright, so take it up with mythology, okay? But moving on, Apollo was the son of Zeus himself, being the result of one of the thunder god's affairs. The queen of the gods tormented Alito a lot, sending the monster python to chase her everywhere so she couldn't find a safe place to have her children. Alito found safety on Delos, where she gave birth to Artemis and later Apollo Dias. After his birth, Apollo tracked Python to its nest in Delphi and killed the monster to avenge his mother. And not even the hatred that Hera had for his mother was enough to prevent him from becoming one of the gods of Olympus alongside his sister. Apollo was a purely spiritual deity and far above all the other gods there. He was so important and widely worshipped that he became linked to the sun. However, Apollo never appeared at the games, which is curious. In God 3, for example, Helios appears. If you haven't noticed, that's Helios. In mythology, he's a Titan, but in the game, he looks completely different. I didn't understand why, instead of putting Apollo there, they decided to put Helios. Even though he doesn't actually appear, there are several references to artifacts that end up honoring his deeds. Like, for example, in Go Ascension, there's a mural in the Temple of Delphi that ends up honoring his victory over Python. The oracle ultimately rested in the hands of a god statue. Later in the game, Kratos reaches the island of Delos, home to a massive Apollo statue built by Archimedes in his honor. Though it was badly damaged, Kratos restored it with the amulet of Ouroboros. In God 3, the famous bow of Apollo is owned by Pyrrho, a former hero now trapped in Hades' underworld.
And have suffered enough, Spartan. Hades, he sentenced me to this eternal torture, my prison of tinder. But now that you are here, you can free me. All I have left is my bow. Please free me. It is yours.
Artemis, Apollo's twin sister, is the virgin goddess of the hunt and is also linked to the moon. Besides hunting, she ruled over forests, wild animals, archery, diseases, and cared for childbirth. She actually helped her mother, Alito, deliver Apollo because she was born first. Artemis was very powerful and clever. When the giants of Luodai tried to invade Olympus, she turned into a deer, ran among them, and dodged all the attacks, which resulted in one giant hitting the other. Her best-known story is likely the one about Orion. When Orion met Artemis, since they were both hunters, they ended up becoming good friends. But this friendship made Apollo very jealous. Several versions of the story exist, but the first says Orion tried to take advantage of Artemis. She escaped, so out of revenge, he began killing every animal he saw. To stop him, Artemis sends a giant scorpion. Some stories say Orion killed it. In other versions, he was killed and they both became constellations. In another version, it is said that Apollo himself ended up making Artemis kill Orion without her realizing it. Yes, he does appear in the games, specifically in God of War 1, and she gives Kratos a sword that, according to her, she used to hunt titans. But after that, she never appeared again, not even when Kratos was climbing up Mount Olympus. I don't know why they stopped using her.
Artemis, Kratos, the gods demand more from you.
Dionysus, known as Bacchus to the Romans, is the god of madness, fertility, and wine. He is also the son of Zeus, and like the others, he also ended up suffering because of Hera. When the queen of Olympus found out about Semele, who was Dionysus's mother, Hera ended up deceiving Semele, making her ask Zeus to appear before her in all his glory. Zeus, who had to obey, ended up appearing in the form of lightning and killed Semele. Luckily, Zeus managed to save Dionysus and placed him in his thigh, and later he was born. In another story, Dionysus is seen as the reincarnation of Zagreus, the son of Zeus and Persephone, making Dionysus the true heir to Zeus's throne. In the most well-known version of Greek mythology, Dionysus is only able to ascend to Olympus when he convinces Hephaestus to release Hera, who was trapped in one of his traps. Dionysus is never mentioned in the games. Uranus, the first king of the universe in Greek mythology, was the sky and born from Gaia. With her, he fathered the Titans, Hecatoncheires, and 3 primordial cyclopes. In Hesiod's creation myth, which is the theogony, every night Uranus would come to cover the earth and be with Gaia. But even so, he really hated his own children and was afraid of their power. So, the Hecatoncheires and the Cyclopes were sent back inside Gaia, and of course the goddess didn't like that at all. So, hidden from Uranus, she made a scythe and gave it to Kronos, who was the youngest and most powerful of the Titans. Kronos sets a trap and cuts off Uranus's balls, throwing them into the sea. Then the Furies and goddess Aphrodite emerge. In the games, Uranus fought in the Primordial War like most older Greek deities, as shown in Go Ascension. In the original mythology, the Furies came from his blood, but in Go, they were born from Kaos. Athena claimed they were born from Uranus's blood in the Go1 novelization. What may have happened? Because maybe Athena didn't really know what had happened in the Primordial War, or according to the legends. And by participating in this war, he appears in the game's introduction, where the stars are shown coming out of his body. It was later confirmed in the official art book, with developer comments, that the star-filled primordial is Uranus, the personification and creator of the heavens. And later it's also confirmed that Uranus ended up surviving this war, but he was brought down or killed or whatever by Kronos, which stays consistent throughout the series. The funny thing about this is that we have a much bigger cycle than in the mythology itself when it comes to stories of fathers facing their sons. In mythology, Uranus is defeated by Kronos, and Kronos by the gods. In the game, a similar thing occurs, but Kratos also defeats the gods. And just out of curiosity too, he doesn't appear directly in the comics, but one of his sons, the Hecatoncheires, briefly mentions him. He spoke like Uranus was disgusted by his ugliness and banished him and his brothers to Tartarus. He also said the universe, sky, and everything else belonged to him and his brothers, born from Uranus. He also said that it was his father who created the universe and everything else. Kaos is the first of the beings in the universe, being considered the first of the gods, and also, basically like all the other primordials, he is the personification of something, a place that bears his own name, Kaos. Through this being, since the gender is undefined, Tartarus, Gaia, Nyx, Erobo, and according to Hesiod, Eros were born. Several other sources confirm this. Afterward, Kaos is not mentioned again in the stories or game. He also appears in Go Ascension's opening cinematic during the War of the Primordials as the reddish figure. He fights Urea, the mountain personification, and from his blood, the Furies emerge. But she never actually gets hurt, no matter how bad the fight is. In the Geo comics, she's also mentioned as Uranus's mother. People also took the idea of Kaos as a place and adapted it to the God of War universe. In the original novelization, Tana says Kaos was a primordial realm that Uranus organized. And something similar also happens with the goddess Persephone, when she says that the pillar holding the world together would cause the world to revert to chaos. This seems to indicate that, just like in mythology, Kaos would be a primordial realm of emptiness and nothingness. This proves true when at the end of God 3 Kratos turns the world into complete chaos.
But not anymore. Once the pillar is destroyed, the world will revert to Chaos Watcher.
Now, moving further into Norse mythology, this is a god I was really disappointed didn't appear or even get mentioned in the games, which is Vidar. Why was I disappointed? Simply because he's a key god in mythology. He is the god of vengeance, and is there anything that fits god of war better than a god of vengeance? And Vidar is also the second strongest in the mythology, only behind Thor himself, and he's also a son of Odin. Vidar isn't just a symbolic god, he has a purpose in the stories. During Ragnarok, when all the gods are involved in a huge war in their respective battles, Vidar will just be waiting for his destiny to arrive. Unlike the others, he won't die, but will avenge his father, the father of all, who Fenrir will devour and kill. Vidar will see this, become very angry, charge at Fenrir, and climb into the wolf's mouth. Using his boots, he will step on the lower jaw and hold the upper one, breaking the wolf's jaw and killing it. After Ragnarok, Vidar, Magni, and Modi will survive and take Odin's throne. Vidar simply doesn't appear in the games, maybe because they decided to change some things there that would make his presence meaningless. For example, Fenrir doesn't kill Odin, possibly because Kratos acts as a substitute for Vidar. I'm not sure, but I was curious how he'd be in the games. Did I forget to mention any god in the video? Did you also feel like any were missing in the games? Leave a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and to share the video. Hey, thanks. See you. Bye. Subtitles.